drop downs, and then it will run those forecasts, run those predictions, run those prescriptions, and they feel empowered. Once they feel empowered, then they will operationalize it, they will use it in the daily fabric of their business, and that then leads to commercial outcomes.
Welcome back. On this eClerx Talks today, we're getting into a problem every brand is discussing and wrestling with, not getting people to click, but getting them to come back and actually stick around. Traffic is no longer the issue today. It's converting, retaining, and using data to do it smarter. And I have the perfect person to do this with me today. You may recognize him from a few of our other videos. Jamin Edis, welcome back, sir.
Thank you.
Jamin, for those who don't know about you, give us a little bit of an intro.
So I have been teaching marketing at NYU Stern School of Business for the last 15 years, where I teach grad students, MBAs, exec MBAs, and undergrads. In my other professional life, I've worked for companies like Accenture, HBO, Pearson, the education company, Take-Two, the video game company, really focused on marketing, on analytics, on data science, and on optimization of the customer journey.
Excellent, and that's why you're here today. So Jamin, let's start here then. If brands have more data than ever, which is a good thing, then why are so many still guessing when it comes to their customers?
Well, Adam, this reminds me of a famous quote in the marketing space. There was a department store owner here in New York, a Wanamaker, and he famously declared that half of his advertising budget was wasted. He just didn't know which half it was. And we still, even in this day and age, with all the customer touch points we have and all the data, we still have that problem. And so it's not necessarily about access to the data, it's more about gleaning insights from it and what you do, the decisions you make with those insights. So one of the reasons why that's the case is data is still stuck in silos in companies both large and small. You'll have a view of it from finance, from product, from the sales team, from the analytics team, and they don't necessarily share that same view of what the reality is of the customer experience and the customer journey. And so one of the jobs that needs to happen is to make sure that you're unifying your view of the customer into one, either whether it's a CRM or whether it's a customer data platform, so you can see them from beginning, middle, and end of that journey. At that point, you get insights into their customer acquisition costs, into their ARPU, into their lifetime value, into things like lapse, churn, propensity scoring, win back, and then you can really try and control end-to-end that journey. So there's an enormous amount of work that needs to happen in terms of cleaning up the data, and that requires constant monitoring. It requires data hygiene, data governance, data dictionaries, tracking for model and data drift. So culturally, a lot of the decision making sometimes comes down to what's called a HIPPO, which is the highest paid person's opinion. It's not a particularly
flattering
optimistic or flattering term. All that to be said, it's not necessarily the people who are able to really derive insights and make data-informed decisions. And that goes to more cultural takeaways, which is oftentimes right now, companies are still looking backwards. They rely on dashboards, on Tableau dashboards, data visualizations that give historical data. That tells you what has happened. It's a lagging indicator. And what we need to do is to get teams to be thinking in ways that are predictive and prescriptive. What will happen for forecasting? Prescriptive, telling you what you should be doing in terms of how should you be pricing things, how should you be reaching the end customer, rather than the marketing team or the sales team having to ask that question. You tell them before they even know what they want to ask. And then a final point I'll make here is that oftentimes data science, machine learning, data, AI is mystified. It's viewed as a black box, and a lot of teams outside of the analytics team don't understand how they work. And so there needs to be a process of education, of informing them in simplified terms about how it works. They don't need to understand linear regressions or hybrid Bayesian random forest models, even though that powers a lot of the work that we've done historically. What you need to do is have a product mindset. Go to the salesperson, to the person in finance or in marketing or product, identify their pain point and work backwards from it. Treat it like software development. You want to be creating a product requirements document, business requirements, functional requirements, technical requirements, and then go and build a model that helps serve that. And where I've seen that work well in companies is once that the model is built, once it's trained, once it's proven its precision and its accuracy, is then building a UI for the end user to then go and do drop downs themselves and filters without having to go back to the data science team and explain stuff mathematically, drop downs, and then it will run those forecasts, run those predictions, run those prescriptions, and they feel empowered. Once they feel empowered, then they will operationalize it, they will use it in the daily fabric of their business, and that then leads to commercial outcomes.
So if those are blockers, then what does it actually take to get it right? Is it better people? Is it better discipline, or is it better technology?
Well, you hit on three of the main areas that I always find need to be solved for and to work together, and that is this platforms, technology, data, etc. It is the people who know what to do with that data, and then it's the processes that enforce it. To your point, discipline. It needs to be operationalized, otherwise it's pointless. You don't get good outcomes if the analysis simply lives in spreadsheets or lives in presentations. You need to be able to take action around it. That can frighten people sometimes as well. If you have a sales team whose end of year bonus is reliant on them hitting targets, they don't want to be running experiments with their pricing strategies and promotion strategies. So it needs to come from the top. You need to get exec sponsorship. You need to have carve-outs that allow a more scientific approach to experimentation. You need to do A/B tests, prove things out, and then if that works, then you go and scale. So some of this application of scientific method is really just about creating a closed loop system, right? So that's where you have data that leads to decisions, that leads to action, you get feedback, and it goes back into itself. It's a recursive loop. And that's fundamentally at its core, it's reinforcement learning, right? But you have to test these outcomes in the real world. Otherwise, it's just theoretical, it's a white paper. So once that that process is in place, I think making sure that all the teams are represented, they're cross-functional. It's not just one view for product or e-commerce, but that all your goals and metrics are aligned, and you have KPIs behind it. You guys are all in agreement on what that means and how you're going to go and achieve it. So again, you need to take action, decision science. And so I think that's when we talk about artificial intelligence, we talk about data. These days, all the teams will have access to large language models, and that gives them almost access to infinite knowledge. Now, you then plug your own proprietary data sets in it, CDPs, API calls from Salesforce, that enhances the outcome there. But that is knowledge. That's simply knowledge. What sits on top of that is wisdom, and that is the intuition and experience of your product teams, of your sales teams. It's their relationships. It's what's worked well in the past. And to go from knowledge to wisdom to judgment requires action. That requires decision science and doing it. Now, none of this is meant to replace the decision making. It's just meant to inform and augment it. And that's really, when that is working, then that's when you see results. Over-reliance on gut instinct, that can lead to bias, but over-reliance on models can lead to generic soulless experiences. And also, don't forget, algorithms are built by human beings, so implicit within that are bias, prejudices, etc.